When the world trembled before the worst nuclear disaster in history, there were machines that did not back down. They weren't tanks or futuristic robots, but Soviet trucks turned into fortresses on wheels. Today we travel to the heart of the exclusion zone to uncover how these titans faced radiation head-on and survived. What you're about to see is not science fiction, it's a story of steel forged in hell. An unprecedented challenge. It's been nearly 4 decades since the world witnessed one of the most chilling tragedies of modern history. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster in 1986. Reactor number 4 exploded, releasing a cloud of radiation that swept across Europe, leaving behind devastation and fear. But what happened afterward was just as striking as the accident itself. While authorities struggled to contain the chaos, a fleet of vehicles was designed to face an invisible and deadly threat: radiation. Moving tons of radioactive debris is no small task, especially when some fragments emitted more than 10 sieverts per hour, a dose sufficient to cause death within minutes. Conventional trucks simply weren't up to the job. Machines capable of withstanding lethal levels of radiation while protecting the driver as effectively as possible were needed, and so one of the most unique vehicles ever built was born. The birth of an armored capsule. The urgent call came on the night of June 22, 1986. The mission was clear and terrifying: build special trucks to transport radioactive waste straight from the heart of hell. The challenge fell upon the engineers at the KrAZ plant in Kremenchuk, Ukraine. Led by engineer Viktor Kolyavko, an elite team got to work, knowing time was not on their side. They chose as their base the KrAZ 256B1 model, a robust but outdated truck still in production since Soviet times. Although it lacked comfort and its cab was little more than a wooden frame covered with metal, its reliability under extreme conditions made it the best available option. But the most impressive part of this project wasn't the chassis, it was the sealed capsule that replaced the traditional cab. A fortress on wheels. The armored cab wasn't just an add-on, it was built with special panels, 3 millimeters of steel on the outside and a core of lead layered to reach 30 millimeters on the floor. 25 millimeters on the side walls and 12 millimeters on the roof. The rear was nearly 50 millimeters thick, where radiation could be most intense. The windows, meanwhile, were made of special radiation-resistant glass blocks. Dark yellow in tone, 300 by 300 millimeters, with a thickness of 75 millimeters. The added weight of this capsule exceeded 3 tons, causing serious structural imbalances. To compensate, the chassis was reinforced. The front springs on the left side were adjusted, tire pressure on that side was increased, and special clamps were added to prevent blowouts. Every detail was engineered to withstand the harshest conditions without sacrificing driver safety. Internal modifications and special systems. The inside of the capsule was austere, small, and dark. It had only one front window. Everything else had to be seen through mirrors. 4 were installed, 2 rear view and 2 side mirrors, all hemispherical. The loud buzzing sound heard while driving came from the ventilation and filtration system, which pumped clean air into the sealed cabin. This system was powered by the engine's generator. But in case of failure, 4 additional batteries were included to keep it running. To maximize safety, many mechanical controls were replaced with hydropneumatic and electro-pneumatic systems. The clutch, for example, was operated hydropneumatically. The brakes on the middle axle were controlled by compressed air chambers. The fuel cutoff lever was relocated to the outside of the capsule, meaning the armored door had to be opened to shut down the engine manually. One risky decision was not to include heating. It was assumed that all cleanup would be completed before winter, something that, of course, didn't happen. But it was a practical measure. Fewer systems meant fewer potential points of failure. Tests and first impressions. On July 10th, the first prototype rolled out of the experimental plant and was tested around Kremenchuk. The engineers were puzzled by the cramped cabin and how difficult it was to drive without direct side vision. However, they soon adapted. The truck moved steadily through uneven fields and waterlogged areas, performing well even during reverse maneuvers, which had to be done solely with the help of mirrors. In the following days, 7 more trucks were completed and sent directly to the Chernobyl exclusion zone. The full batch, consisting of 18 units, was ready in less than 5 weeks, an extraordinary achievement under such extreme circumstances. The plant workers, fully aware of the risks, spared no effort. Many worked in 2 or even 3 shifts per day, driven by a greater purpose: to save lives. Operations in the exclusion zone. These trucks didn't operate alone. They worked in coordination with engineering tanks such as the IMR and IMR-2, which collected the heaviest radioactive debris and then loaded it into the KrAZ hoppers. The mission was clear: transport these materials to the temporary waste repository at Pydlizny, hastily built near the plant. This site, hidden behind thick concrete blocks, had surface modules and a remotely controlled crane to unload the waste. Although its construction was poor and only 2 modules were actively used, it served its purpose during the most critical moments. Later, roofs were added to prevent rainwater from spreading the contamination. Special units and rare machines. Although the capsule-equipped KrAZ trucks were the most emblematic, they weren't the only adapted vehicles. In some cases, improvised armor was mounted on standard trucks. Or amphibious PTS-2 transports were used, fitted with air filtration systems and lead plates behind the driver's compartment. Only 2 of these units were employed, as they were extremely difficult to decontaminate. Yet, surprisingly, they still exist today and continue to emit radiation, as confirmed at the Rosoka storage site. The uncertain fate of the armored Titans. By the end of July 1986, the trucks were in full operation. They could be seen traveling the shattered, radiation-dusted roads of the exclusion zone, serving as a kind of bridge between the nuclear plant and the Pydlizny depot. There, the waste was carefully unloaded. Much of it came directly from the destroyed reactor core graphite fragments, chunks of contaminated concrete, and even metallic elements that once formed part of the plant's very heart. The scene was almost surreal. Armored trucks with a single front window and a constant mechanical roar from their ventilation systems, slowly moving through the absolute silence of a place where no one lived anymore. It was like watching mechanical beasts crossing an invisible desert of death. However, although their work was vital, the fate of these vehicles remains shrouded in mystery. Some sources claim they were buried in the massive Buryakivka waste dump, one of the deepest and most dangerous in the world. Other versions point to a darker destiny: their transfer to the Russian Mayak facility, a plutonium reprocessing plant even more secretive and deadly than Chernobyl. There, according to rumors, they were modified further, including the addition of a seat for a dosimetrist, the technician responsible for measuring radiation in real time. These trucks are said to have been used around the infamous Lake KrAZ, a liquid waste reservoir so hazardous that 1 hour of exposure on its shores could be fatal. The evolution continues today. Those original trucks no longer operate. Their lead and steel capsules, crude engines, and desperate solutions are now part of history. But the mission is not over. The concrete sarcophagus covering the collapsed reactor still requires constant monitoring and maintenance. And radioactive waste continues to be generated, needing transport and confinement. This is where a new generation comes in. Modern KrAZ trucks, known by zone workers as the Furious KrAZ. These no longer need armored cabs. Since current radiation levels are much lower, but they are built to work for decades in harsh conditions and contaminated environments. Their hoppers are made of special steel that is easy to decontaminate and are equipped with reinforced rubber roll-up covers to prevent radioactive dust from escaping during transport. Some even have hydraulic lids that seal tightly after loading. These new KrAZ trucks haul the waste to the Buryakivka repository. Each vehicle passes over a weighing platform before dumping its load into specially designed trenches, where radioactive materials are sealed for 300 years, a silent legacy of a disaster that still carries consequences today. Beyond the technical, a symbol of sacrifice. The armored KrAZ trucks were not just tools, they were symbols of ingenuity, urgency, and courage. Machines born out of desperation, built by men who understood the risk and yet worked tirelessly, day and night to deliver a solution. Every rivet, every centimeter of lead, every mirror installed was a silent declaration of resistance against an invisible threat. Today they rest buried, dismantled, or simply forgotten, but their story remains a vivid testimony of what it means to act in the face of the unthinkable. Meanwhile, the machines of Chernobyl continue to evolve, but their purpose remains unchanged: to protect us from the dangers hidden behind the barbed wire of the zone. If the story of these armored titans that faced radiation without flinching struck you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Here we keep unearthing forgotten machines and steel heroes that shaped history. See you in the next episode, where the impossible becomes engine and courage.